All right, this is a trip I've been dying to make for years. I'm fishing today with Chris Bush, popular podcaster. He owns Speckled Truth. If you don't follow Speckled Truth, you absolutely need to. If you're a speckled trout fisherman, constantly post pictures of massive speckled trout. Well, this guy fishes the Texas coast all the time, wade fishes, doesn't even have a real boat, just has a little solo skiff. This is what he loves to do. We're in his neck of the woods here at Corpus Christi. This is absolutely gonna be a blast. Cannot wait to go hit the water. All right, I had to go walk back to my bag, having camera trouble. It's back there. There's Chris in the water, fishing off this rocky point here. Hopefully my camera's working fine now, we'll see. Now, unlike what I fished yesterday, Chris said this is no grass at all, just a rocky stretch.
One thing I noticed right walking in was the water's much cooler.
Much cooler?
Yeah.
There's a fish. Not a big one. Catch and release.
I don't know if there's a lot of tide right now. I think the closer we get to the point would be our best bet.
Gotcha.
Porpoises are actually pretty good here because what happens is they'll actually drive the trout to this bank.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely some bait.
No, man. Yeah, we'll just keep working like we were just doing. Okay, but I think we need a little wind.
Need a little wind?
Yep.
Said no fisherman ever. There's our dolphin buddy. There's Flipper. We're gonna be staring at the sun in a minute.
I know.
Fish on? That's what we're here for.
Yep.
Such a pretty view. Such a pretty view.
Little male. It's actually a pretty big male.
Yeah, it's a big male, yep.
And so, here's another thing that's kind of crazy is when that bite has been off, what I've noticed here in terms of pattern is when that bite's been off and just not fired up yet, is I'll start catching a lot of males.
A lot of males,
Yep.
really. You think just because they're more aggressive or what? Yeah.
Yep. Now when a bite fires off,
It's females?
I'll catch
Wow.
all male. And
That's interesting.
crazy, yeah. Well, hopefully
There's one.
it's a good sign.
That's a, oh my goodness. I gotta check my hook. That's two I've lost. That's a good trout. Man, that hook could not be sharper. First fish of the day and the last fish of the day. Two you don't want to lose. Oh, Chris is hooked up. How can you not love this? How can you not love this? In the water with the fish. Sun coming up, just beautiful. Another croaking male, yep.
There it is. Ooh, that's a baby. That is
You too. Croaking male. Croaking male. There he is. All right.
broken like cray.
Swim off, little guy. You know how lucky you are. A coon ass let you go. Oh, Chris is hooked up.
I mean, trout.
Ooh, dude, I love when they go 3 foot airborne like that. It's crazy. So you don't use a net, huh?
Even on the big ones, man.
Oh, you dirty dog.
It's hard enough to get them to eat.
Sure.
But once that happens, it's man versus fish, and man, I've had more heartbreak than I've had success.
Of course.
That's when you tip the cap and you gain a greater appreciation for those fish.
Yep.
It kind of helps sharpen and refine your skill.
Yeah.
Now when you do fight some of those bigger fish, and you kind of garner from that experience of having a big fish throw a hook and
There he is.
understand
That's a good trout.
the heartbreak.
Texas, where you been all my life?
Back home, that's a nice fish, right?
Of course. I mean, it's a beautiful fish.
Hey.
What would you say, 16, 17? I mean,
Yeah, so I got
it's a nice trout.
on here.
I mean, I'm just, you know, let's just see. Let's just see how long he is.
That's 18 from that white line to that white line, so about 17.
Yeah, 17.
Yeah. It's a good healthy fish. He's fat.
Yeah.
Throwing that trout. You saw that?
Yep. Look at that. Look,
cool.
look, look.
Did you catch that?
Yep, I hope so. Don't play with your food.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing to me to think what this estuary went through, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, 2 years ago. And for us to be having even just the measure of success we've had today, it's remarkable. I mean, it's obviously very resilient because, man, I saw the videos. A lot of trout perished. Literally, my day is already made. Just such an incredible experience. And I know it sucks that the wind's not blowing, but I love the fact that the wind's not blowing. Okay. Just beautiful out here. Fish on, fish on. Come up and jump, baby. Yep.
Male?
You gonna croak? Yep. He's gonna croak. So this is a bait we're using. It's actually it's a ghost minnow made by Lane Zimmer. It's one that Chris requested him to make. It's called Moonrise. And I'm gonna show you in a second something really interesting about this bait. I have fished these ghost minnows before, but only under a cork. I've never fished them jigged, but I gotta tell you, this probably won't be my last time. So what Chris did was have Lane pour the mold upside down. He likes the hook emerging from the belly, so the flat side of the bait is down. He feels like it falls better. It won't kind of twist and roll. And all we're doing, casting out, let it fall. We got them 1/8 ounce death grip jig heads. Let it fall at the bottom, pick it up and let it fall. Pick it up and let it fall. And the fish are really tagging it. Most of the hits I've gotten, there's been a few that were just kind of there. Mostly though, they've tattooed it. And of course, when you're doing this, a good rod is so important. So important to feel those strikes and also react quickly once you do. And as you can tell, it's super calm today. Chris told me before I came down that the only thing we didn't want was calm conditions. Believe it or not, he likes a little bit of wind because this area doesn't get a ton of tide. So that wind helps that water to move and inspires those fish to feed. I've never desired wind in my fishing career, so I'm enjoying this flat, calm condition, and we're catching plenty of fish. So could it be better with wind? Maybe so, but this is pretty awesome. And Chris has one now.
These baits, as you can see, and kind of even just scan our rods, and you see like little bait dimples, right? It's smaller bait profiles. And so that's really, you know, when I did it was really just create, you know, it's a similar profile to the bait that we're throwing at, and that's present in the fishery. And so that's really the key. And this isn't Moonrise, this is actually the white shrimp color. Just to try to switch it up a little bit. It's matching a hatch more or less, a little bit small bait profile, and it's matching all the bait that's basically on this flat. And that's really been kind of the, I guess, the key all summer. You know, so it doesn't take rocket science. I've thrown a myriad of different baits and sizes and all these different things, but it's really about just kind of matching what they're eating. And so last couple weeks, we've seen it more than any time, which is they're actually spitting up a lot of the little bitty glass minnows. And so that tells me all I need to see. And so yeah, it's a little bit lighter, and we're not catching a lot of big fish now, but you know, there are some nicer fish here. I say nicer, you know, in the low 20s, 20 to 22 inch range, and even those nicer fish are just still tattooing these fish and kind of keyed in on some of those kind of smaller bait profiles. And again, it's just kind of what's in the area, and so we're just giving them what they want. So
you told me in recent weeks they really haven't been touching paddle tails, huh?
No. I mean, I've kind of fished it all summer, and you would think that the action of a paddle tail would kind of invoke a bite, but it doesn't in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think these fish are really in hunt mode as much as they are as opportunistic mode, right? They're just sitting there to kind of meandering through this gut or on these, you know, ledges, and as that bait, and since it's so much of it, they're just eating it.
Just react.
You know, as it comes
they
through.
see it and just react.
Pretty much throw this year round. Really high gear ratio bait cast. I think it's 8-to-1 right here. And this is a Concept Z slide. I really do actually like Concept as opposed to other, but on a Waterloo 6-7 Waterloo, this is a slam mag, HP slam mag, and it's basically a medium extra fast tip. And I know it can be a little bit overpowering to some extent, but we're throwing it such light jigs that that bite's so light that I don't want a really light rod. I want to be able to feel it and have connectivity with the bait really as it's falling through the column. And so even on some of those larger fish, it loads up real well. It casts this bait super easy. But have it rigged here on an 1/8 ounce Texas Custom Lures jig heads made here locally, and it's a screw lock. And so, I mean, that's a good thing about these baits. They're already durable as it is, and then you throw them on a screw lock, they're like ultra durable, and so you can catch literally fish all day on one tail and never have to change. And so I threw this white shrimp on here just to kind of change a little bit of color profile, but still kind of keeping pretty natural. And so yeah, hopefully we can keep it going and maybe find some of those larger fish. And
I see a loop knot on 14-pound.
Yeah, so that's
mono leader. You got braid mainline here, huh?
Yeah, so
okay.
Suffix 832, 20-pound, 6-pound diameter. So lighter braid than probably what a lot of people actually do throw, mainly because it gives me more line on the actual arbor, so I can make longer casts. This is actually Seagar. This is True Fluoro. I do throw pure mono as well, like the Berkeley smooth casting, just to give it maybe a little bit different. So that mono floats, obviously fluoro sinks, and so I can fish a lighter style jig head on a fluoro leader and still get that kind of sink ratio that I really want. You know, and so sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't. Even the air clear water, I do step it down typically from 20 to 14-pound, but I've caught them in air clear water on 20-pound test.
Right.
It's just maybe more between my ears than anything.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, there we go. Come on, put on a show, buddy. Let's see what you got. There you go. There you go. Just a real healthy Texas speckled trout. So glad to see it. Nice catching a few trout. You know, Louisiana is supposed to have legendary fishing. And I mean, coming here and seeing this helps me remember what it used to be. Going crazy.
Bumped it too, man. That's a good sign.
Yeah, mine thumped it as well. So Chris has caught 5 fish over 30 inches, which is absolutely amazing. And he was telling me earlier about his snag technique when the fish get close and how patient you have to be. And actually, that's what you do. That's what you're trying to do, is grab the back of the fish, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Once he gets close.
Yep.
Beautiful, man. It's a pretty trout. See you,
Not
bud.
the most graceful of them.
Yeah, I fish a medium power rod with a fast tip for jigging. I used to do actually a medium heavy, and I was a big believer in it, but I found that it kind of gives them more leverage in the fight. You know, I think you're better off on the hook set.
So I threw medium light.
Did you really? Yeah.
I threw medium light moderate for the longest time. And that's a good one. Love it.
Never gets old.
Never.
Oh, there he is. Oh, that's a good trout. That's a good trout. I mean, he's not a 30-incher, but
Stretches the string, sir.
yep. It's just beautiful. Beautiful speckled trout. So the legal limit here in Texas is now 17, right? 17 inches. Oh no, while I'm sitting here talking, he's freaking ingesting it. Shame on me. I got some, but they're gonna be hard to get.
You put him in the bag.
Yeah, he's toast.
That's exactly where I bring it.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
So that fish is legal to harvest, and that's, you know, a pretty nice speckled trout. So now he ingested the bait, so we had to keep him. Obviously, if he was under 17, we just have to let him go. But Texas tightened things up, 17-inch minimum, 3 fish per angler. And that's not true in all of Texas, right? Just this area?
Yeah, upper coast is, I think, back to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 fish per angler. And I got to tell you, they had a major freeze 2 years ago, and just 2 years post a major fish kill, the fishing is incredible. Now, obviously, I'm getting the privilege of fishing with Chris. He fishes far more often than he'd like to admit, I'm sure. But, you know, so he stays on the fish. But obviously, there's just a ton of fish here in Texas. You know my sentiments. I really wish Louisiana would tighten up our recreational limits.
You know, by Texas standards, if you will, those are fairly small fish, right?
Sure.
But back home, those are
chunks.
good quality.
Those are
fish.
chunks, yeah.
You know, hopefully TPWD is protecting that smaller biomass of fish and allowing them to contribute. And I think that's why the rebound has happened so well, is because we've kind of leaned off of the, you know, the 15 to 17 inch range. Well, as you know, what, they become sexually mature at 11 inches.
Yeah.
So you might get 2 full spawns
Yep.
or seasons out of these fish. And then on top of that, we used to be able to harvest 1 over 25. Now it's the upper slot is 23 and you can't harvest 1. And I know there's some debate there whether or not, you know, you catch 1 over slot and it's gut hooked and you have to release it, you know. So, but to that end is, you know, your genetically gifted fish are allowed to contribute to
Right.
the resource. So you're kind of capturing a large biomass of spawners, and
Right.
you're capturing some solid genetics. And I think you couple the two, and now you see, hopefully post-freeze 2 years, you know, I mean, it's not a banner day, but it's not a bad day.
Yeah. It's the best trout trip I've had in at least 2 years, I'll say that. Literally. And I had to leave my state to do it. So I mentioned Chris's 30 inchers earlier. He's got 5 over 30. Most of those come in the wintertime, but he did catch 1 over 30 September 1st, right? September 1st. We're here in mid-September, so really, literally on any cast, it could happen. I don't expect it to, but it definitely could. Certainly exciting, fishing in an area where it's a possibility.
Well, yeah, surely there's expectation management during different times and seasons and parts of the fishery. So, well, yeah, I mean, I think most, you know, Texas, you know, followers of yours and maybe folks from Texas, you know, watching this will agree that, you know, truly any cast here in the state could produce a world-class fish. And it's definitely unique, you know, for me, at least growing up in Louisiana, where it's pretty much to some extent a pipe dream unless you're fishing certain areas, you know, Venice, maybe, you know, things of that nature, and kind of those high productive big fish areas. But it truly is any cast here, and that's what keeps us coming back, you know. So
real quick, Chris, if you had to pick ideal conditions for catching a 30-inch fish,
yeah.
What would the conditions be, and what would the date be?
None of that. none of the sun. I like low light conditions, not say at night, but certainly foggy conditions, low sky. You know, probably most guys are, you know, back home Louisiana duck hunting. I do, as you heard before, I do like to fish some wind. I really feel that, you know, we're fishing some really clear stuff. I say clearish today, but I like it a little bit more off, and I feel like those fish will make a mistake. So low sky conditions, certainly as that water temp comes down. So we're looking probably, for me, I like upper 50s, anywhere 55 to maybe 60 degree range. So that's typically your December, January, February. February and March are really my 2 favorite months. The only, you know, limb fact to those 2 months is really, is the fronts.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you can get them barreled up against each other, and you might not fish for 2 or 3 weeks just because the wind won't let you. Or you could see those windows where you have a little bit more predictability in those months, and you can really focus on some great prefrontal stuff those days where you get, you know, those really low cold water conditions, and then you might have a little warming trend here in Texas days, can get up to 80, you know, in February. So you might have that mid to upper 60s, and you start to get that really dense fog coming in. And then you couple it with a little bit of wind like we have right now or something like that. That is the best.
And by a little bit of wind, you mean like maybe 10 knots, something like that?
10 knots, okay. Yeah, that's perfect. And it's awesome because if I can put on a hoodie and I can feel that moisture of that fog kind of hit me in the cheeks, and you know, you can run your fingers across the brow of your hat and you kind of get a little moisture there. That is it. All right, so let's say you get those conditions in February, perfect, ideal day, but you can only bring one bait. What are you bringing? Jerk bait.
What kind? What is it? What are you bringing?
Let's do top three.
All right, top three. There we go.
Because it's almost impossible, right?
All right.
So, jerk bait. I'd probably go, and it's not necessarily a jerk bait to some extent, but a Texas Custom Lures Double D. Hands down, on a warming trend, fishes 6 to 8 inches perfectly, slow float. You can really target some really big bites up skinny using that, right? And that's why it's hard to pare it down to one. Then the second would be a Lucky Craft 110 Lightning Pointer SP. Number 3 would be a Rapala Shadow Rap Shad.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Yep. God, it's so hard. My best big fish bait, but it's not as much of a constant producer. But if I'm really, no kidding, targeting a giant fish and not like that's on the brain, I don't care if I don't get bit all day, it's gonna be a Jackal Re-Range 110. Okay. I file the lips down, I change the hooks to kind of, you know, work with the float, you know, the ascend ratio and how deep it dives. But what it does is it has that weight transition system.
Fish on. All right, awesome. Go ahead.
But and so that's awesome. No, so but what happens is it has that weight transfer system. You can cast it a long way, and then aside from that, when you pause that bait, it has a real like tight darting action. And when you pause the bait, it almost wobbles and rocks like a corky. Okay. And so I like slow floats. And where I've, you know, fished and again, wintertime, water temps are colder, that density's there. Those baits just have a different fish ability to them. And I think they give a lot of something the fish haven't seen. And then a great profile to where you can sit that bait or you can work it fast. So it works so well, I think, across the spectrum from fast to slow, shallow to deep, slow suspend, if you will, and slow float. Okay. All those are mine. Okay, very good. Oh, that's a good trout. Son. Real close to us. That's a good thumbnail right there, bud. There we go. All right, wear yourself out. I'm not gonna horse you. That's a good thumbnail. But hey, man, I'll take those all day. Yeah, I'm just gonna let it wear itself out so we can get that picture. You do it. You knew it. You're a little green. In the winter, man, they a little bit more lethargic. Oh, definitely, no doubt. They love this warm water temperature. All right, there we go. All right, Chris is still fishing over there. I don't know if you can see him. I just walked back to my camera gear. Just an absolutely incredible morning. I can't tell you how fun this was. What an absolutely great fishery they have here in the Corpus Christi area. Hard to believe, just 2 years ago, 2021, they had that massive freeze, so many fish kills. Just to see it spring back this quickly is truly mind-boggling. Obviously, conservation played a major role. You know, you can harvest 3 speckled trout here, that's it. So many of these fish are getting released, and it's helping this population to spring back so quickly. Kudos to you, Texas. I will definitely be back. I love this place. Chris invited me back for when the big trout are in, typically in the wintertime. You gotta be able to pick your days that time of year. So you kind of really have to almost go on a day's notice. But man, I'm gonna try and make that happen. May not get a 30, but something upper 20s would be really nice. All right, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the Marshman Masson channel on YouTube. And until next time, if we don't see you in the marsh or here in the water, we'll see you right here on Marshman Masson.